nothing but good things to say about Phoenix. That was my home for 6 years. I created a lot of fond memories.
The drama surrounding the Indiana Fever's crushing 95-60 loss to the Phoenix Mercury wasn't just about the scoreboard. It was a night where everything that could go wrong did. Missed shots, careless turnovers, devastating injuries, and an emotional storm brewing beneath the surface. But if there was one thread of defiance running through the disaster, it came in the form of Sophie Cunningham, who, in her return to Phoenix, refused to let the game pass quietly into humiliation. She didn't just play hard, she played like she had something to prove, and by the end of the night, her words would make waves far beyond the court. From the very first possession, it was clear the Fever were in trouble. They couldn't buy a basket, struggling to find the rim even when wide open. Passes were intercepted with ease, transition defense was slow, and before most fans had even settled into their seats, Phoenix was already building a double-digit lead. The stats were the kind that make coaches lose sleep. A brutal 34.3% shooting. From the floor, a miserable 7-4-30 from beyond the arc. And an unforgivable 22 turnovers. Turnovers that Phoenix feasted on, turning them into a staggering 42 points. For a team already battling inconsistencies, this wasn't just a bad night. It was an implosion. The Fever's offensive execution looked like a mirror image of every one of their worst games this season. There was no coherent motion offense. No clear plan to weather the cold shooting stretch.
And relationships and close friendships out there, and so it's going to be really nice to see some of those people.
And when Kelsey Mitchell had an off night, a rare but costly event, the absence of any secondary scorer to carry the load was glaring. Sophie Cunningham was the exception. In her first game back in Phoenix since leaving the Mercury, she'd lit up the scoreboard with 18 points, hitting big shots and doing everything in her power to rally the team. But her efforts stood in stark contrast to the rest of the squad, who seemed to lack the same fire. The night's misery deepened when Sydney Colson crumpled to the floor with a non-contact knee injury, immediately sending a hush over the arena. Soon after, Aari McDonald began limping with a foot issue, leaving Indiana's already thin rotation even more depleted. Watching two teammates go down in a blowout wasn't just deflating, it was demoralizing. Phoenix dominated the boards, out-rebounding Indiana 44-32, and dictated every tempo shift. Their defense hounded the Fever into mistake after mistake, while their offense sliced through with precision. What made the loss sting even more was the context. Sophie's return to Phoenix carried the same kind of emotional weight Dana Bonner's return to Indiana once had. But unlike the Fever's previous efforts to rally for Bonner, there was no reciprocal show of support for Sophie from the rest. Of the roster, she was the lone spark, jawing with Alyssa Thomas, Dana Bonner, and Kalia Copper, refusing to back down even as the scoreline grew more lopsided. In a game that should have been about pride, she stood alone in the fight. The atmosphere inside the building was a study in contrasts. Mercury fans roared with every bucket, while Fever supporters sat in stunned silence. Every Phoenix run was punctuated with loud celebrations.
But for me, I'm just all in. I'm happy to be here in Indiana. They're just another team that's in our way to where.
Each defensive stop met with the swagger of a team playing with a chip on its shoulder. For Indiana, it was a case study in what happens when depth disappears and leadership falters. Then came the post-game fireworks. Dana Bonner, who dropped 23 points on her former team, wasn't shy about soaking in the moment. She talked about finding her joy again, about rediscovering her love for basketball, and about the energy of the night. But it wasn't just the words, it was the antics. She stared down Lexi Hall after made shots, reportedly called her a bum mid-game, and exchanged tense moments with Sophie Cunningham. Bonner's performance wasn't just about basketball, it was theater, a calculated attempt to humiliate her old squad. Her coach praised her veteran fire as if she'd been waiting months for this matchup, framing it like a personal vendetta finally settled. But when Sophie Cunningham later took to her podcast, the story shifted and the curtain got pulled back on Bonner's exit from Indiana in a way that reframed the entire night. Sophie began by acknowledging Bonner's talent and Hall of Fame resume. But then she revealed something that left fans stunned. Bonner never even sent a goodbye message to her teammates when she left mid-season. Not a call, not a text, nothing.
Yeah, they have a lot of offensive weapons. When you have AT on your squad, anything can happen.
After months of practicing, traveling, and sharing the grind, she simply vanished. For Sophie, the issue wasn't whether Bonner deserved to be happy or to finish her career elsewhere. It was about professional courtesy and respect. She explained that even the simplest gesture, a quick message saying good luck or sorry it didn't work out, would have preserved the relationship and avoided lingering tension. Instead, Bonner's silence was a slap in the face to the teammates she left behind. Sophie's tone wasn't bitter so much as it was firm, laying out the difference between leaving on good terms and leaving in a way that guaranteed blood. Her comments hit harder because of the context. Sophie has been one of the Fever's emotional anchors this season, showing up game after game ready to fight. To hear her talk about accountability and professionalism wasn't gossip. It was a veteran leader defining what loyalty means. The revelation also stripped away any notion that Bonner's 23-point night was some noble comeback story. Instead, it became clear it was just a revenge performance against players she couldn't even be bothered to part with, respectfully. On the court, Sophie's play mirrored her words. Even as the loss spiraled, she kept hitting shots, attacking the glass, and pushing the pace. The injuries to Colson and McDonald could have been an excuse to quit, but she doubled down, embodying the very team-first mentality she spoke about. Lexi Hall, too, made her stand, meeting Bonner's trash talk with unflinching resolve. The Fever's post-game focus on checking on injured teammates.
We have Satu, Pa, they have some newcomers that are really good, but they're just playing really well. And so for us, so are we.
Talking about resilience and vowing to bounce back was a world apart from Phoenix's celebratory taunting. That cultural divide, one side concerned with unity, the other with individual vindication, spoke volumes. And it's why the Fever's foundation, despite this loss, feels stronger in the long term. For Indiana fans, Sophie's performance and her unfiltered honesty are proof that the right players are still in place. They're building a team identity, rooted in loyalty, grit, and shared sacrifice, an identity Bonner never fully embraced. The blowout in Phoenix hurt, but in exposing the cracks and calling out what doesn't belong, it might just have been a turning point. Because while the Mercury were busy celebrating a win over an undermanned opponent, the Fever were reminded who their real leaders are. And with Caitlin Clark's return looming, this rough patch may well be the kind of adversity that forges a championship core. Sophie Cunningham's refusal to let the truth stay buried could be the moment that solidifies not just her role, but the team's entire ethos heading into the future. If you stand with Sophie, drop a spicy Sophie in the comments. And if you believe in this Fever team's heart and future, subscribe and turn on notifications because the next chapter is going to be worth watching.